What's good, party people? This is According to Woods, and I have the honor and privilege of talking to somebody that, it's been a while, and that's mostly me. That she is making her LFA debut at LFA 91. She's the one and only Kelly Skittles Clayton. Kelly, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good, good. Glad to have you back. It's been a while. But geez, what's been up? I mean, obviously you're training at Mercenary Combat Academy, but what's that?
Yeah, a little bit's changed since we last chatted a couple years ago for my pro debut. Changed fight camps. I was training in Yakima. I started in 2013, and my coach retired from coaching, Rich Guerin with Yakima MMA, and my fiance now opened up a gym in Tri-Cities. So I was driving back and forth over to Tri-Cities for training. And then my fight last August, that was a lot of time on the road. I decided to relocate after that fight because it was just way too hard. So now since August, so I moved over and I put my house up on the market in October after that, and I officially moved over in December. But now I train full time in Tri-Cities. I live in Tri-Cities. And the really unfortunate thing during that transition, my old coach, Rich Guerin, after he retired from coaching, he passed away in October suddenly. It was very unfortunate, really sad. But I had already transitioned over to Mercenary Combat Academy when that happened. So now I train full time in Tri-Cities, and I also bought a house in Tri-Cities and live over here too.
My condolences to Rich and his family.
Yeah.
It's a tragic happenstance, but you know, when you enter into combat sports, it becomes your life. So sometimes when you leave it, the things that whether it be health or anything, it kind of puts a standstill, and you have a way of kind of you know trying to find yourself all over again.
Yeah, it's so true. Yeah, because I was at Yakima. He closed up at the end of 2018. So I had two pro fights under him, and then I was driving back and forth to Tri-Cities. So my last couple pro fights were with Mercenary Combat Academy. But it was nice. It was good and bad. So it was hard to leave my old team and start over in a new gym. But now it's my new family. I'm still my old teammates. I'm still in contact with and still train with, and so I guess I just made my family bigger. And I just love the world of mixed martial arts. I can't imagine my life without it. I've just built so much community, and I know so many people now. Because I remember when I first entered into mixed martial arts, I was just kind of scratching on the surface and started competing, and you start building your network, and you get to know more and more and more people. And so it's been a really exciting journey. And I get to train with a lot of really neat folks. But that was a hard transition because Rich, I wouldn't be training with Mercenary Combat Academy if it wasn't for Rich. I was popping in and out of the gym a lot. Actually, I first popped into the gym in 2009, and he always kept messaging me, "When are you coming back? When are you coming back? I see potential." And I didn't see it in myself, and so I just trusted Rich and kept going back there. I was also, during that time, I was feeling really lost, so I was trying a lot of different things, trying to find myself, and I kept coming back to mixed martial arts. And then I finally committed to it in 2013. And after a year of solid committed training, and I started doing grappling tournaments, Rich asked me if I wanted to fight. And I, having never fought before, I kind of went back to Fight Club how do you really know who you are if you've never been in a fight before? So that's something I really wanted to know about myself outside of the cage. I had never, well, I've been in a fight once, but I did not end the fight. The girl was ragdolling me, and my sister jumped in and broke it up. But aside from that, I've never tried to hurt anybody, and I've never been in a fight. So so my first fight was in a cage, and I ended up loving it. But at that time, it was, it's kind of the whole idea of fighting was really terrifying, but I didn't know why it was terrifying. I didn't know if it was because I was afraid to fight or something else. And I think it was just the idea of performing, because when I got in the cage and fought, I fought. So it wasn't the fighting. And so I got to see a side of myself, am I going to run or am I going to fight? And so it was nice to see that in me, because I got addicted after that. And so it's always been about the next fight.
No, 100%, 100%. And Jesse Velasquez chiming in and saying, sorry for your loss. And he has a pretty interesting question. He says, I have a question. Where does the nickname Skittles come from? It's pretty interesting and different in terms of a fighter nickname.
Yeah, so my first nickname was given to me by a teammate of mine, Killer Kelly, but there's already there's a couple, well, I don't know if there's a couple, but there's another Killer Kelly in the MMA world. So, and when I'm in the cage, yes, Killer represents kind of what comes out of me when I'm fighting, but I'm outside the cage. I'm a really nice person. And I am still non-confrontational. I'm still, even though I'm a pro fighter, I'm still the last person that would end up in a fight. So, so we liked the nicer, the Skittles came because it's nice and sweet. And I think it represents my personality more outside the cage. Also, I love the candy. So every, on my cheat days, I'm eating Skittles. I ate Skittles back growing up when I was a kid in high school. After fights, I have a bag of Skittles, or after I weigh in, I'm crazy with Skittles. So the candy, I love the candy. My fiance is the one that came up with it first, and then it was my other coach, Anthony Hamlet, that kind of grabbed onto it and started calling me Skittles, and it stuck after that. But the other thing I really like about the nickname is it reminds me of family. I'm a big supporter of LGBTQ, and so it's love is love, and it's something that I believe strongly and I fight for. So there's a lot of good things that come from that nickname.
I mean, taste the rainbow, right? Yeah, we're all
taste
different.
The rainbow, yeah. I need to get some gloves. I have that right there. Where's my camera? There it is. Taste the rainbow.
That's an interesting marketing, opportunity. I know there was a former wrestler. He's now a WWE commentator. Corey Graves. He actually has the knuckle tattoo "Stay Down." So when you get these things, stay down. It's like you don't want this.
Oh, I love that. Yeah.
Now, in terms of, I mean, it's kind of crazy in terms of, you believe you're based out of Washington State in the U.S., right? So it's kind of crazy, how synergistically, Yakima Fit and then now Mercenary, right? So how important is it, to have a synergistic, I guess fight life, in combat sports in your career, because you had places that fit like gloves, theoretically speaking, and how important is it to have that synergy?
I think it's really important to me, just having that community and that family. And then the same goals. I go to the gym every night, training with, that's important to me. So all before that, I was spending a lot of time Well, I got my master's degree. I did 7 years of college actually, and I work full time as a biologist. But there was a period between college and working where I just felt really lost. And so I had a lot of friends that like to go out and drink. And so that's a nice change for me, is going to the gym and doing something healthy for myself and sharing that with who become your friends, and not just your friends, but become your family. My training partners become an extension of my family. I would do anything for them. And I grew up in a large family, actually. So I'm one of 11 kids, same parents. So I grew up in a really big family. So to say I have, so it's having even more brothers and sisters. And the really nice thing about Mercenary Combat Academy is we got a nice group of girls, and I had that at in Yakima, but not as I had a couple of girls that were on the fight team, but at separate times, and so I always had that one girl, and then she stopped fighting after a while, so it was just me with the training with a bunch of dudes as part of the fight team. So that's a nice change with the Mercenary Combat Academy, is like there's probably more women on the fight team than there are men. That's not true, but more women that are committed that come every day. We have a lot of men that kind of pop in and out for fights, but it's just nice. It's just nice to train with women. We'd love to build our women's team if anyone's interested. You got to start somewhere.
No, 100%, 100%. And it's really cool because of course, it does, when you're, of opposite sex, right? It does kind of benefit, training with the opposite, because, there's little nuances that you'll get, by training with somebody that might be, two weight divisions, higher than you, or, that grapples kind of small and what have you. But I mean, it's nice to kind of have that female force, if you're a female fighter.
Yeah, there's pros and cons to training with men and women. With men, you're dealing with higher weight classes and the strength factor. I really love it when I've got male training partners that try not to use their strength against me, and we work a lot on technique, which is amazing. I had a lot of training partners like that allow me to move and flow, but I feel like I have really good defense training with men, and then with training with women, men and women, I work a lot depending on their skill level. I work a lot on my offense, but it's nice training with women, because then there's that opportunity where you can use your strength against each other, looking for submissions and or grappling, sparring. It's different, but I can get one or the other with men and women, and so there's pros and cons to that.
No, that's brilliant. I think it's absolutely brilliant. And Jesse, it says big facts. You learn a lot about yourself to fight. Respect to all that do it, and see yourself as an IFF champion in MMA in California. So shout out to Jesse. Now, you're a biologist, right? By trade. So how did you wind up in the wild world of combat sports?
I don't know if there's like an airplane flying over right now, but it gets really loud. I don't know if you can hear that in the background, but okay, so how I got into mixed martial arts. Like I was talking about before, after college, and actually I'll even add to that, it was after a big breakup. I was kind of lost in this long-term relationship that ended, and I was feeling really lost, and so I was trying to find myself. So again, I was trying lots of different things: fishing, hunting, a lot of stuff on my own, rock climbing. Bought a kayak, bought a big fishing boat, just trying lots of different stuff. And then I started cardio kickboxing with a couple of girlfriends, and was going and training after work. And I really, really loved that. I was, at that time too, I was working a second job. I was bartending, and I was a cocktail waitress. They used to call me the singing bartender. So I also really like to sing. um, anyway, my schedule changed at work. I started working 410s and was out in the field a lot. And so I had to find a kickboxing that was later in the evening because it conflicted with this cardio kickboxing class with all women. And that's when someone told me about Yakima MMA, and I said, oh, no, I'm not interested in combat sports. And they said, you don't have to be a fighter to train. And so I went to one of it was actually a boxing class. Jeff Kurtzinger was teaching that. And everyone was so welcoming. I just couldn't believe how nice everybody was. And that's when I met everybody, and I started doing just the kickboxing. And I had always been interested in wrestling when I was in high school. But when I was in high school, I graduated in 2002. So I guess almost 20 years ago. Women were not doing wrestling. So that was, though I really wanted to join, I've always been a very physical contact, very competitive person. So that always appealed to me. So when I started doing the kickboxing and the boxing, I was watching the grappling classes, and so I kind of sat and watched for a while, and then I started taking those classes, and I absolutely loved it. And I started competing in doing jiu-jitsu tournaments 6 months once I committed to training, and I was way more into the grappling than I was the kickboxing, even though I prefer stand-up fighting. When I'm fighting, I tend to stay standing, and I like to strike. I have a purple belt in jiu-jitsu now. So I know my coach that passed away, Rich Guerin, he promoted me to purple, actually before he closed the gym down.
Wow, that's brilliant. That's brilliant. And I mean, not just, being the singing waitress or a biologist or, a mixed martial artist. Valiant says Kelly is also known for her badass Halloween costumes every year.
Oh my
So I
gosh.
definitely want to elaborate on that.
Oh my gosh, Valiant, one of my high school buddies. I am also a band nerd too. Valiant was in the percussion section, and I was a tenor. I played the tenor sax, alto sax, and flute for a little while because I was bored. But anyway, I look forward to Halloween every single year, and I go all out when it comes to Halloween. And actually, with this fight, I've been distracted with the fight, so I don't know what I'm going to be for Halloween this year. But I wanted to do Beetlejuice with my fiance this year, get like the big red dress, and then. But anyway, I haven't spent a lot of time on that. But yeah, every single year I go all out on Halloween. Trying to think of some of the costumes.
Yeah, I was gonna ask. I mean, here we are in 2020, and you've been doing it for a while. What are some of your favorite costumes that you've put together?
Some of my favorite ones. Nightmare Before Christmas. I've done Sally, and then my fiance Tony Solis. He was Jack. That was one of my favorite ones. That's when once we got together, I started doing the couples Halloween costumes, because before that it was always just solo. We've done Guardians of the Galaxy, where I was Gamora, and I can only think of his, what is Pratt? I can't think of the male character in the Guardians of the Galaxy.
The Groot? No, not Groot.
Not Groot, but anyway, so who Gamora is with in that movie. We did that for Halloween one year. Let's see, what did we do last year? There's a lot of them.
Valiant says Catwoman is badass.
Cool, yeah. I've done a couple of Catwoman. I did the Hush series Catwoman. Thanks, Valiant. The Hush series Catwoman back years ago, where she's wearing the motorcycle goggles. And then I did the Tim Burton style Catwoman as well. And so I basically took my leather costume and I make a lot of costumes too. So and I put the stitches in it. That was probably my best costume. Was that one. I used to have bangs, and I used to dye my hair dark. So I did Xena Warrior Princess one year. That was probably one of my favorites as well. Oh gosh. What else? I've done vampire, zombie, all of those. I can't think of anything else.
Jesse says that
Star-Lord, thank you. Yes,
yeah,
Star-Lord.
also known as Peter Quill. So,
oh, is it Benjamin Pratt? I can't think of his first name though. Anyway, no, it's Pratt.
Somebody. I have to do the whole Marvel Super whatever. Not that I've got the Disney Plus. I've yet to see one of them, so I got to do the whole wormhole, jump into the Marvel like cinematic universe. I think that's what they're calling it. You know, so I got some work to
do. One of my other favorite costumes, just to add, is Evil Dead. I don't know if you've seen that show, but I've done the whole chain on the hand with the shotgun. That was one of my favorite costumes too.
That's brilliant. That's brilliant. Now, I mean, obviously, you talk about your work and basically finding a family. But I mean, your fiance, Tony Solis, right? You get to train with him. You know, I mean, it's funny the dynamics of fighter relationships with your significant others or even their family. But you get to have literally both kind of meld in the best possible way. That, you're enriched not only as a person but also as a fighter. Talk about that relationship. I mean, obviously, not the personal details, but how cool is it to have your fiance, train with you?
It's a blessing. It's amazing being with somebody that has the same passion and drive and understands what you're doing and your sacrifice and helps motivate you. He's my mind coach at the same time and is helping me through my fight camp. So I've got two coaches, and Tony Solis is my fiance is my striking coach, and Anthony Hamlet's my grappling coach. So that's been nice. Training at Mercenary is that I have two coaches, and they're both focused in one area versus the other, and so that's really nice. When I first got into mixed martial arts, so this is going way back when I first got into it, and I realized I guess I was tired of one relationship after the other, and so I was kind of fed up with all of that and wanted to focus on myself. And so that's really when I committed to mixed martial arts. And at the time, people always say, choose your path and you'll find that person that you belong with along the way. And I didn't really understand that until I met Tony. So I was single for a while. I made myself a priority, and that's when everything started changing for me. And I started competing, and I really made mixed martial arts a lifestyle. It was a lifestyle change. Anyway, Tony and I met, it was 3-4 years after I started training. So I was well in the mixed martial arts world at that point and had several amateur fights. Anyway, Anthony Hamlet, my other coach, is putting on this benefit. So Anthony Hamlet's my old coach's coach. And Tony so Tony was part of Northwest Elite in Tri-Cities. And then I was part of Rich Guerin's team in Yakima. So there was two different teams going on. Anthony Hamlet put on a benefit show, something very unfortunate happened. I don't know if it was what had happened, but somebody had died, and he put on a benefit show. And I showed up to the gym, and Rich was asked, do I have any volunteers to go and fight over in Toppenish, which is my hometown. And I said, sure, I'll go. So me and one of my other teammates went to this show to fight. My teammate ended up boxing Tony. I think Tony fought twice that night, and I ended up grappling his teammate. But I noticed him right away. I don't know why. He must be my type. But anyway, right after that, we started talking, and then we never stopped. We never stopped talking, and so it just kind of morphed into a relationship, and we've been together ever since. That was 2016, so it's been 4 years, and he proposed last year, and now we're moved in together. Now we're gonna get married. But that's it's amazing to be with somebody that has the same passion as you do. So I just feel really fortunate that I found him doing something that I love.
Absolutely, and I think it's absolutely, great that, it took this journey, of kind of self, realization, to, kind of spend in on who you are as a person, who you are being, and then ultimately choosing your path, what you wanted to go down, and that led you and Tony together. I think that's amazing.
Yeah, and Tony he opened up his gym, and his coach had closed down his gym, and so he opened up on his own, and he created Mercenary Combat Academy, and so he was running his own team while I was still training in Yakima, because I'm a very committed and loyal person, and that was my team. So it wasn't until my coach retired that I joined up with Tony, and then Tony and I were training together over in Tri-Cities, and then Anthony Hamlet went and trained. He was helping coach in Texas, and so then he came back and joined Mercenary Combat Academy, and so now. But anyway, it's been really fantastic. I feel like I'm finally putting everything together, and that's what you need in mixed martial arts. You can't just do one thing anymore. Yeah.
No, 100%, 100%. I love it because again, it's synergy. That kind of works out.
Yeah.
So, for those who aren't inclined, describe to us the combat sports community in Washington State and the Pacific Northwest. Because, we hear about, like I believe it was like Jiu-Jitsu, or Barnett had his formal training, and obviously Mercenary Combat Academy. So like, what's the scene look like there? Because here in California, obviously pre-COVID, in Southern California, we would have fights every weekend, if not twice on a weekend. All right, so what's the scene like there? Are there local promotions, gyms, what have you?
We are still in. Well, I don't know what you guys are doing in California, but we're in phase 1.5. They allow some things, but everything is still shut down in Washington. And the eastern part of the state, well, I don't know about Spokane, but Yakima and Tri-Cities are an agricultural rich area. And so there's been a lot more cases of COVID in our particular counties. So actually things on the west side, even though more populated, have been opening up, and we're still waiting to open. So that's been very challenging for training. But now that the UFC and Legacy and now Bellator and Invicta, they're all opening up, and we're seeing fights on UFC Fight Pass. There's I'm just really excited that there's still an opportunity for at least pro fighters to keep competing. So I'm really excited for this opportunity. There's a lot of fighters in the Pacific Northwest. Sam Hughes, she's just over on the west side. She just fought on. She's had a couple of fights on LFA, so I'm really happy for her. Yeah, Miranda Granger. I just saw that she has a UFC fight coming up. She's over on the west side of Washington. West side as in West Cascades, Western Washington. Josh Arnett. He's UFC veteran. Springer just fought like last weekend, had his UFC debut out of Washington. Amanda Bell, she's fighting. Is it next weekend on Bellator?
Yeah.
She's in Oregon, but she relocated to Warrior Camp, so she's over in Spokane. There's my old teammate, actually teammates, Julian Erosa and Gustavo Lopez. They trained with me at Yakima MMA, and Gustavo had his UFC debut, and Juicy J, Julian Erosa I'm so happy for him. He got back in. He got his third chance with the UFC, and I'm just so happy for him. He finally did it.
That submission was crazy. Yeah, and Gustavo Lopez, obviously former Combate Americas champion, was relocated to Vegas. Yeah, but I mean, it's funny. Even though, I mentioned, Barnett and Barnett actually does a podcast with Blake Bulletproof Group. I think it's called Cage Theory. So yeah, I mean, Hartnett, you see him all over the place. Not just beyond fighting. He's doing podcasting and all that. So shout out to the Cage Theory podcast and those guys there. But yeah, I mean, it's funny. Even Barnett, right? Barnett is a Washington State native. That has migrated down here, obviously. But it's cool, the strong lineage that comes out of the Pacific Northwest and Washington State specifically. And I just think it's cool. And those are, lineages that you carry on your shoulders quite proudly.
Yeah, and Elizabeth Phillips is over in Spokane. Jillian Knoll, pro fighter in Coeur d'Alene. So there's I was about to say Lisa Spangler, but she's in Oregon. But I mean, that's still Pacific Northwest though. And then Misha Tate is from. When I first walked into Yakima MMA in 2009, she was there. She was the Strikeforce champion. So Misha Tate, she's from Tacoma, and her previous boyfriend Brian Caraway they were also training at Yakima MMA. So there's a lot of people that came out of Yakima MMA. Richard Foster, another pro fighter. Wyatt Gonzalez. Anyway, there's quite a few.
There's a litany for sure. My goodness, yeah, it's just cool, and especially doing this podcast, finding out all of everywhere, every city, every state, everywhere they've got top flight, whether it be MMA, Jiu-Jitsu, Muay Thai, or just MMA gyms, and it's just so cool to find out what everybody's doing, and we are a small part of a larger community, a worldwide community. It's cool.
Yeah. That's what I love about fighting. It just keeps getting, the world of MMA just keeps getting bigger and bigger. The more now that I'm debuting on LFA, like my world is getting even bigger, and I'm just so excited. And I was a very quiet person growing up and in high school, and I just it just, even outside of the MMA community, it gives me something to connect with people. And I'm really big on people and having relationships with people. And I just love that. I just love that so much. It gives me something to talk about with people.
No, 100%. Now, obviously, I mean, this is a big opportunity at LFA 91. What does this mean to you?
Oh, it means everything. I've when I first started mixed martial arts, I didn't even know if I wanted to fight. And then even when I fought the first time, I didn't know that I was gonna to love it. I just was all about doing what I love, and I didn't want to force anything because I have forced a lot in my life. So I just really was trying to be happy. Anyway, so I just never stopped training. I loved it so much, and I never thought I was going to become a pro fighter. So now I'm a pro fighter, and I think things are finally coming together for me. And I always knew, like that I was almost there. And so now I feel like I'm finally there, and I have this chance, this opportunity to prove it, not only to myself, but to everybody else. So I'm really, really excited for this opportunity on LFA. I lost my first 2 pro fights, and so it's nice to finally get there, and show everybody what I really can do.
Absolutely. Now, obviously, I mean, it's been a COVID situation has, kind of put everybody on the sports and otherwise, worldwide, it's kind of thrown everybody, through a loop. So, obviously, we've got this big opportunity on the horizon. What have been some of the different nuances, in this fight camp versus other fight camps that you've been a part of because of the COVID situation?
Oh, it's very challenging because things are shut down. Again, I think there's pros and cons to it though, because now I'm getting very specific training, and it's not about a team. It's very focused with my coaches. So I think it's been challenging, but I don't know how it's been challenging getting ready for the fight, but it hasn't been any different than previous fight camps. So I'm still able to do everything with my coaches.
I think that's brilliant. That's brilliant. And Jesse has to bring up. Everyone says the Darce choke was wild. He showed a lot of heart on that one. Absolutely.
Oh my gosh, I'm so happy for him.
Absolutely.
That's Juicy's signature move right there.
Uh-oh. Hey, you know what? I mean, if you've got a bread and butter, choke or combo, whatever, you just never know. And, having, interviewed fighters times, right? And when you play out the sequence back to them, and they're like, did you know you're going to do that? And they always reply, like, I've been training that move, that submission, whatever, for the last 6 weeks, almost ad nauseum. And that's, it's the question of why they got where they got to, because obviously, if you repeat it, especially in like a grappling type move, right? You find different ways to put somebody in that position. I mean, obviously, Ronda Rousey, started everything, and she made that armbar of all the judo kind of techniques that she could do. Yeah. Absolutely. So it's just, it's crazy,
Yeah.
Now, Jesse asks, how do you think the no audience is going to affect you? Do you think it's going to help or hurt your performance? Have you thought about it?
I don't think it's going to affect my performance at all, because when I'm walking out to fights, I focus a lot on the present moment, not necessarily what's going on the outside. So I just really focus on not thinking, being connected in that moment. I don't think it's gonna affect me at all, whether there's an audience or not, because I'm going in there with one thing on my mind, and that's to finish the fight. So.
I love it. Now, I gotta I mean, you're a biologist by day, you know? So, I mean, how has your work in biology helped, your kind of evolution as not just a person, but a mixed martial artist? Are there things that or traits that you've borrowed from one to take to the other, or stuff that you've learned from, MMA and been able to take that into your work?
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, I got to point at the cam. Yeah, that second one you mentioned. Believe it or not, mixed martial arts helps me better perform at my day job. You'd think it would be the other way around, but it's not. I think uh, for one, after maybe a stressful day at work, I can take out all that aggression on the bag. So it's a really nice stress reliever. That's the main thing. But just I think the main thing that I got from mixed martial arts that's improved my work outside for my day job is in mixed martial arts you really have to focus on your strengths, and not so much. I mean, yes, on your weaknesses, but like for me, growing up, I guess majority of my life, I was always so focused on those weaknesses that I would not ignore my strengths, but just not see them. And so I was always just, I can see the pros and cons to that too, because then you're obsessed with fixing those weaknesses, and but it can really drive you crazy. So I think with mixed martial arts, I find it built my confidence, just as a person in my everyday life, not just work, but I was starting to become confident, and not blind by my strengths, but I could finally see them and I could build off of that. And I took that to work with me. So I could see like, okay, yeah, I really suck at these aspects, and that's okay. I've got my team that complements me, and this is what I bring. This is what I bring to the team. And so it really, once I started training mixed martial arts, like my whole world just kind of changed. I'm just a lot happier now. When you get stuck on your weaknesses, it can be really depressing.
Yeah, it can be, and I mean, obviously, different fighters, different people have different ways about approaching a particular situation, but, I think that's it, the fact that you learn to build on your strength. Of course, you can improve on the weaknesses and what have you, but, sometimes you got to accentuate the positives and hide the negatives, right? Because if it's just down, 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 you start to feel that, you start to encompass it, and it starts to envelope you in ways that you
Yeah.
didn't So I think it's really cool. You're like, hey, I know this person does this, that, the other, but this is what I bring to the table. This is what I bring that's unique to this particular scenario. And like, let's work with that. And maybe that strength will help your weakness and vice versa. And it's some kind of exchange that happens.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's also a mindset too. That's just positive thinking. I I think it just really helps me. I try to not focus on too much negativity. Yeah.
No, I agree. It's but again, it's an evolution of self. To kind of get to that place. And I think it's again that the metamorphosis that has become Kelly Clayton, that figuring these things out and what works and what doesn't work, and that obviously it relates to combat sports because that's what it is. You might think your grappling is awesome one day, and then you go into striking and it's drizzling traps, and vice versa. So it's this constant evolution.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and it just keeps getting better too. So I'm really excited to finally get to that stage and have an opportunity to showcase my skills and to show everybody what I've got. I feel like I've got another chance since I did not have a good run my first couple pro fights. Very close fights, but just not enough to get the job done. So It is what it is.
No one else.
Yeah.
It is what it is. But again, this opportunity presents itself, and you're answering the call, and I think it's amazing. Now, obviously,
Yeah.
there's a litany of different things, and you mentioned, like you being stay positive with everything that kind of comes your way. And it sounds too cliche, but it's what you've done. But what helps you stay positive? Obviously, as a professional athlete, and a biologist, you've got two full-time jobs that you're dealing with. But I mean, what helps you? Are there movies that you're watching, books that you're reading, music that you're listening to that keeps you kind of focused on what you need to do?
That's a really great question. I'm glad you asked that too, because I had kind of mentioned it when I'm walking out to fights, whether or not they're an audience versus no audience. It's that being focused on the present moment. I think I spent a majority of my life always stuck in the past or always thinking about the future. And it was always the next thing. It was always the next thing, always the next thing. And this is before I started training mixed martial arts. And I just like, why am I not happy? Oh, maybe if I get my master's degree, I'll be happy. I get the master's degree, and it just was never fulfilling. So I did some counseling, and which really helped out a lot. And I think everybody should do that. That was part of my journey before I got into mixed martial arts. But just being focused on the present moment, because if you're thinking about the past, oh, I should have, would have, could have, it brings you down. And then it's good to have goals. Definitely. It is very good to have goals. But you really need to enjoy, as enjoying the step. Each step is part of the process. Enjoying what you're doing is really important. So for me, being present, and that's what I love so much about fighting, is I just feel like everything slows down, and it literally is the Matrix. When you like walking out to a fight and going into the cage, everything is going so slow, and that's what it feels like to be present. Like you're listening to, like I was on top of one of my opponents. This is my fight last August, and I just felt like I'm elbowing this girl in the face, like elbowing her, and there's like this. I'm so connected to the present moment. I'm listening to her breathing, and she's trying to move, and I was just hitting her and just listening to her breathing. I mean, I don't know. Some people have described it when they're rock climbing, because you have to be present because you're putting your life at risk. And so I just love that. So I get to feel that in the cage, and then and I try very hard outside of the cage too. So just like if I'm getting really stressed out or something's bothering me, I try to think about, okay, what is it bothering me, but get over it, and move on and focus on, what you're missing out on the current moment. So sometimes we get stuck in our thoughts, and I just try to shut that off, and yes, have goals and move forward and keep training. But I just think that the most important thing is right now. Right now. Yeah. So, and that's a hard place to get to.
Yeah, and it's amazing, especially at a time like the time that we've all, I mean, again, worldwide, have been going through over the last, 6 months. It's to be present in the moment. You can't, everything is kind of precarious, right? Jobs, health, all this stuff, right? But what can you do right now to improve
right now?
right now?
Yeah. So I think about it in training too, and, I'm not thinking about tomorrow, it's right now. I gotta do what I need to do right now. And then sometimes too, like if you're thinking about how tired you are, you're not in the present moment. You're fine. You can keep moving. You're thinking about how tired you are. That's why you're so tired, but if you're actually present, you can keep moving. You can keep pushing through it. It's amazing how far you can push your body. So I think about that all the time. All the time.
No, I love it. I love it. Now, I mean, speaking of things that you think about, obviously, cutting weight is, an arduous task. Sometimes like the weight cut is harder than the fight itself to some, right? And Justin Velasquez says, "Hey, everybody's got that secret sauce to pull off against opponents, and it may lead you into what you need to be, right?" So,
Oh yeah, I need that. Yeah.
yeah. So after a fight, after a weight cut, like, is there a favorite meal that you have? Is there, obviously, you mentioned Skittles and what have you, but does it go beyond that? In terms of like almost like a cathartic experience, in
Yeah.
eating, because you've been eating so strictly over a 6 week period.
You know, after weight cuts, there's not a particular thing that I crave. Sometimes I end up in the buffet and I'm just kind of grabbing a little bit of everything. But ice cream, like I'll treat myself to a little bit of ice cream, and then Skittles, of course. But it isn't. I don't go. There's not a particular meal that I go after. It's usually I'm usually laser focused until after the fight, and then once the fight is done, then it's always a milkshake. I have to have a milkshake. That's what I'm craving. So it's not like after the weight cut. It's not over. That's one fight, and you still have another fight to go. So it's not over for me until the fight's done. When it comes to food.
No, I mean that makes sense, because I mean you can't literally order one of those Disneyland, turkey legs and then expect to fight 24 hours later at the optimal deal. Like that's not gonna happen, you know. I mean, you mentioned ice cream, right? So
ice cream, I love ice cream. Yeah.
What's the flavor? What's your go-to?
Just vanilla ice cream.
If you get a good French vanilla, man, you don't know how satisfying that can be. My goodness, got vanilla bean.
Yeah, I love Reese's and Oreos and ice cream too. I just really love that. Just regular, old-fashioned vanilla ice cream.
There's nothing wrong with that. I mean, the goods, it's the classics, and especially like in the instance of jiu-jitsu, right? Regan and Jean-Jacques Machado, they've forgotten more moves than they actually have, but they've got a core move that can work against anybody in the world. So, I mean, there's nothing wrong with the classics, right?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Looking forward to that. I like weight cuts, but I feel like that's a part of the process for me. It makes you really salty when you fight, because like, damn it, you didn't do that for nothing. Yeah. So it's an important part for me. I had to cut a lot. I took a fight on short notice this last March. I literally signed the contract the day before I flew out to Kansas, and got off the plane at 1:48. I don't know why, but I sweat really easily, and so I made weight just fine. How many pounds was that? So to 136, that's 12 pounds of water. That's the most I've ever done. But I was nervous about it because I've never done that much, but the water just came off. So I think it's just, the mind, it's not over until it's over. It's the weight cuts are challenging, but I've always made weight. Because it's going to be over.
That's awesome, though. I mean, that's godliness,
Yeah.
That's
not just a little suffering. It's a lot of suffering. A lot of suffering. But for but for the cause, not the cause, but the reward at the end, it's worth it.
Yeah, right? No, 100%, 100%. Now, I mean, you talk about the cause and effect and you've taught a lot of awesomeness, in the hearts and minds of your fan base, your family, and sponsors and what have you. So let's get some shout outs out of the way. People who have helped you in your path.
Oh, my well, obviously my coaches, my fiance Tony Solis, just continuing to support me, doing what I love, and it's just important to him as it is to me, and just having him there for me. My coach Anthony Hamlet goes above and beyond any coach I've ever met. I don't know if you know him, but he's hardcore, and I appreciate everything that he does for me. Everything. My family, just the continuous support and love from my family. It scares my parents half to death, but they know I love doing it, and they want to support me doing what I love. Oh gosh. Sponsors, Native Anthro. It's a clothing company. Every time they sponsor me, so I appreciate them. New sponsors, Sasquatch Media. My team. I want to thank my teammates. My teammates have really been there, past and present, and they know who they are. Who else am I thinking of? Oh, Women of Combat. Do you follow Women of Combat? Nancy Williams. I went on 2 sponsored trips last year to El Paso. Went over into Juarez for boxing. And then I did that in April last year, and then she flew me over to Colorado in October with a bunch of women for training. We trained with Team Elevation. So Women of Combat, I'm glad. So I really want to thank Nancy Williams with Women of Combat. She's amazing. So she's always sending over gear whenever we need gear. So yes, thank you, Nancy.
No, I haven't followed them, but I definitely am now. And Rocky Nelson said, "What's up, Kelly?"
Hey, Rocky, that guy, Rocky, has he has seen every single fight I've ever fought, from my first amateur fight to this day. Thank you, Rocky, for always following me and supporting me. Yeah.
Absolutely. And for those who haven't already followed Kelly Skittles Clayton in her march to the LFA Octagon, where can they find you on social media?
I think my Twitter and Instagram are the same. MMA_Skittles. So at MMA_Skittles. So I'm on Twitter, I'm on Instagram, and then Facebook, Kelly Skittles Clayton. I have an athlete page. Please go and find my athlete page and like my page. The more likes, the more marketable you are, more fight opportunities. So I'm super stoked for this opportunity. I feel like not a lot of opportunities have come my way. So I'm trying to keep moving up and making people proud. And I would like more fights.
Dang right. And so too, ask and you shall receive. So I definitely think that is depositably well beyond LFA 91. So we can't wait to see the journey progress. But Kelly, thank you for taking the time out to join us here at According to Woods. You're awesome. Thank you. And I can't wait for LFA 91. I wish it were tomorrow.
I know. I wish it was too. I'm ready to get it over with. Thank you very much for having me on your show. And thank you to everybody that took the time to watch.
Absolutely. This has been According to Woods with Kelly Skittles Clayton, and we are out. And if you haven't already done so, like, share, and subscribe to According to Woods.
Thank you.